Shameful.
It is shameful.
Resuming debate, the honourable member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a tough debate because we were told about the original plan that there would be a $250 check to certain Canadians, but not to those most in need, to people who worked in 2023, which wouldn't include many people living on very fixed and small incomes, on disability and seniors. And we were the first party to notice that that wasn't a fair plan. On November 22nd, we put out a statement that how could we give a check to $250 to some Canadians, but failed to notice that it wouldn't apply to retired Canadians living on fixed income. It wouldn't apply to people living on disability. After all the time that we have in this House called for disability tax benefit, still not delivered. The disability benefit has still not been delivered, and this $250 check was dangled out there. We don't know where it's gone now because as of the last, I guess, 24 hours, it crystallized that we were only going to be debating this place, fast-tracking a GST tax holiday on only certain goods that would be qualified as necessities and only for a 2-month period in and around Christmas at a cost of $1.6 billion from the Treasury of Canada. I tell you, this is a tough issue. It's less difficult now that they've pulled away the $250 that should have been targeted to people who needed it most. Who knows? Maybe that will come back to us in some other form. But there's something about this, Mr. Speaker. I struggle with it. I have to say, probably knowing how much Canadians need a break right now, I don't know that I can vote against a GST tax holiday on certain goods over a 2-month period. But I have to say, it makes me feel queasy. It makes me feel like I'm voting for something that Doug Ford would have come up with. In fact, I think Doug Ford did come up with it. And it's not good policy. Whether it's good politics, we'll see. A GST tax break on certain items. I heard earlier from a Conservative in this place that it wouldn't apply to jigsaw puzzles. And I thought, well, we don't have to worry about that. We've all seen the Conservative commercials. We know the leader of the official opposition has jigsaw puzzles. We get to see them on TV quite a lot. It's not good policy when it's not targeted to people who need it the most. And it's not good policy when it's $1.6 billion without saying, we're going to pay for that, by the way, with an excess profits tax on the big grocery stores and their corporate management and corporate greed. It's not good policy when we don't say that we're going to actually pay for this GST tax holiday by finally applying an excess profit tax on big oil and the obscene levels of corporate profits they've been making, especially since Putin invaded Ukraine, which amounts essentially to war profiteering by big oil. So we struggle with this, and as Greens we struggle with it because we know Canadians need a break on things that are essentials. But this is a very complicated list of what's an essential and what isn't. And it isn't permanent. So we look at this as a 2-month break over the holidays. It's transparently a vote-buying scheme. But it's transparently a vote-buying scheme. But does it deliver relief to people who need it the most right now? It certainly is. It's of benefit. You look at the Canadian Institute of Independent Small Businesses. They're very clear that the retail sector doesn't see that this is going to help them a lot through the Christmas season, but it will help restaurants, both in restaurant meals and takeaways. And that is a perk for families and people who've been pinching pennies to say, okay. But the people who've been pinching pennies and not going out for restaurant meals are not the same people lining up at the food banks. So I have to say it's rare for me, Mr. Speaker, to deliver, and to my colleagues here, to struggle with how to vote on something. I'm usually pretty darn sure from the get-go. I read a bill and I think, well, this is something I can get behind. This is something I believe in. Bottom line, what do Canadians really need right now? We need a comprehensive security policy that protects us from the ravages of the climate crisis, which itself drives up grocery prices, which makes food more expensive, which makes life in Canada more precarious for those who live in floodplains, who are flooded year after year, or who are in communities that get fire evacuation orders year after year, who live with the ongoing trauma, of the effect of living through a heat dome in British Columbia, the numbers of people who still feel that trauma, or the trauma after Hurricane Fiona. We need comprehensive policy that makes sense. And while the Conservatives want to break and axe the carbon tax, that tax is rebated to people. The GST is something that was put in place under the Mulroney government. The GST is overall not a progressive tax. Everybody pays it, and if you're buying really big luxury items, you're going to pay more. This tax holiday for a 2-month period is at least not designed around really large luxury goods. It says it's about the necessities that Canadians need, like car seats and diapers. I just had a baby granddaughter. My gift to my daughter for her baby, Lily, won't get a GST tax break because it's a service. For my daughter and my granddaughter, they'll never see a throwaway diaper because they're buying cotton diapers and I got them a laundry service. That actually saves people a lot of money. Buying throwaway diapers costs about $6,000 a year for the average infant. Buying cloth diapers up front costs a bit more. It's just the work and the labor for a new mom to have to do all that laundry, and it's usually the new mom and not the new dad. So I don't want to dive into all the questions of what it really costs in our society, where you can save money by doing things differently, by avoiding the throwaway, by investing in something that's a service in community where there's a small business that delivers every week clean and healthy cloth, cotton diapers for babies. That's not what anyone means when they talk about everybody needs diapers when you have a new baby. The whole time my daughter was in diapers, I didn't buy a throwaway diaper, not once, and I didn't suffer for my sacrifice. I had really good, reusable. I've still got one left. I treasure that one diaper left for my 33-year-old daughter because, my gosh, it's the best rag ever for washing up a mess. But you can't buy them anywhere. You just have to save them if you've actually been smart enough when you have a new baby to invest in cotton diapers. Really good product. I'm struggling with this, Mr. Speaker, because I don't know that a 2-month GST tax holiday on some goods and not others is what Canadians really need the most. What we really need to know is that we eliminate poverty, that we focus on food security for all, that we invest in our society with the kind of tax changes that make the biggest difference, and that we give Canadians the chance to know that this is a caring society that has eliminated poverty with a national, guaranteed, livable income for all. That makes real change. This makes small change. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Leader of the House of Commons.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. One of the things that I would have thought, we all have an opportunity to do something very positive for our constituents. We know that things have been difficult, and providing them, a significant tax break for a holiday period. As the member said, it was a difficult decision for her. but at the end of the day, how do we say no to constituents in providing them a bit of support during that holiday time? And she makes reference to the restaurants, Mr. Speaker. You know, restaurants and those that are working that hospitality industry, it's going to have such a wonderful, positive impact. I think of February the 15th, the deadline. February the 14th is Valentine's Day. We know that's a busy time. I think there's many different benefits that are going to be there. And I'm wondering if her thoughts and to what degree it would have been better to have seen all members of the House actually support an initiative like this.
We'll move on to the honourable member from Saanich Gulf Islands, but I just want to let members all know that I try to give them about 45 seconds to ask a question so that we can do a full round of questions and comments. The honourable member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank my honourable colleague from the Liberal Party here. I know that Canadians are feeling a sense of deep anxiety about our future. For most people, the idea, when we go back to the question of affordability, to buy a home, but we also have people who are looking at living rough and living in encampments and living in tents. And I can hardly believe that in a country as wealthy as Canada, we're prepared to tolerate people living rough and outdoors in a country that has bitter winters. We can do better, and we must do better. And this is $1.6 billion that I can't help but feel could be spent in better ways than a short-term and very small, if welcome, benefit over Christmas. As I said, Mr. Speaker, and I say to my colleagues, probably vote for this, but I won't feel great about it.
Questions et commentaires. L'honorable.
Questions and comments. The Honourable Member for Laurentides-Labelle. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tonight, we're not voting against because we're the opposition. It's not because it's only helping a few people. We have to look at these measures as a whole. I won't ask my colleague why she's voting in favor, but I would like to ask her, does she believe that the government had properly thought out and analyzed this measure before proposing it and before we are to vote on it in the next few minutes? The Honourable Member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you to my colleague from the Bloc. It is difficult, as I said. We need courageous politics. We need leadership that understands the difficulties around affordability, difficulties that are felt by our friends and families and Canadians. It's not something perfect, but it is good, and that is why I will be voting in favor. But as I said, we need to do more for our society, for the well-being of everyone, and especially for the well-being of populations that are missing on basic necessities. We need to help Indigenous populations, people with disabilities, people who are unhoused. These are populations in Canada that need our support.
One last question, a very brief one, the Honourable Member from Carleton Trail, Eagle Creek.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. What we have before us is a tax trick, and that member called it a vote buy. Through you, shouldn't all members be voting against this?
Thank the member for a brief question. The Honourable Member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
My friend from Carleton Trail, Eagle Creek. Fortunately for me, as a person who's in the Green Party, nobody tells me how to vote. This is a tough one, and I would share with my friend from Carleton Trail, Eagle Creek, I'm sure she can think of people in her community who will wonder why she didn't vote for this, because they would have liked to have the same. I'm sorry, that's the reality. We need to think about the individuals who will hear about this on the news and think, I needed that. I wanted that, and that would have made my Christmas better. And for those people, I feel very, very much as though we go along with this, but we fight to make sure we can pay for it, and we do better for permanent change to help those people.